What if I told you that tonight, when you close your eyes, you're about to do something more mysterious than traveling to outer space, something that every single person on Earth does, but no one, not even the world's smartest scientists, fully understands. You're about to enter a state where you'll lose consciousness, but somehow still experience the most vivid, emotional, and bizarre adventures of your entire life. And here's the part that will blow your mind. What happens in your dreams might actually reveal the deepest secrets about reality itself. Secrets that could change everything you think you know about what's real and what isn't. But before we dive into this mystery, I need to warn you about something. Once you learn what I'm about to tell you, you'll never look at sleep the same way again. You'll start questioning whether you're dreaming right now, whether the world around you is as real as you think it is. Are you ready for that? Because there's no going back once you know. Every night, 8 billion people around the world participate in the most incredible ritual imaginable. We shut down our conscious minds and enter a parallel universe so strange, so impossible, that if someone described it to you during the day, you'd think they were crazy. Think about your last vivid dream. Maybe you were flying. Maybe you were talking to someone who died years ago. Maybe you were in a place that doesn't exist, doing things that defy the laws of physics. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. While you were having that experience, your body was lying perfectly still in bed. Your eyes were closed. You couldn't see, hear, or feel the real world around you. Yet somehow, your brain created an entire universe, complete with characters, conversations, and adventures that felt completely real. How is that even possible? Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening when you dream. Imagine your brain as the most sophisticated movie studio ever created. But it's not just making movies. It's creating immersive virtual realities that are so convincing you don't even realize you're experiencing artificial realities until you wake up. This movie studio has departments you've never heard of. There's the character development department, which creates dream people who have their own personalities, memories, and ways of speaking. There's the set design department, which builds entire landscapes, cities, and impossible architectures. There's the special effects department, which makes you fly, transform objects with your mind, and experience things that violate every law of physics. And here's the incredible part. All of these departments are staffed by your own consciousness. You are simultaneously the director, the screenwriter, the actors, the set designers, and the audience. You're creating, starring in, and watching your own personal movies every single night. But wait, it gets even more mind-bending than that. Sometimes in the middle of these dreams, something extraordinary happens. You suddenly realize that you're in a dream. The artificial reality becomes transparent, and you gain conscious control over the entire experience. This is called lucid dreaming, and it's like becoming the god of your own personal universe. When this happens, you can literally reshape reality with your thoughts. You can fly through space, transform into animals, visit any place you can imagine, or have conversations with anyone who has ever lived. You can experience superpowers, explore impossible worlds, or solve complex problems by directly manipulating dream reality. Think about what this means. Your consciousness, freed from physical constraints, can create and control entire realities that feel completely real and meaningful. And here's the really disturbing question that keeps scientists awake at night. If your brain can create such convincing experiences while you're asleep, how do you know that what you're experiencing right now is any more real? I'm serious. Think about it. Right now, you're seeing colors, hearing sounds, maybe feeling the temperature of the room. You're convinced that you're awake and alert, experiencing objective reality. But what if this is all just another dream? What if your brain is creating all of these sensations, just like it creates dream experiences? What if the person reading this right now is actually asleep in bed, dreaming that they're learning about dreams? This isn't just a philosophical game. This question has haunted the greatest minds in history, and the latest scientific discoveries are making it more relevant and disturbing than ever. Let me tell you about René Descartes, a brilliant philosopher who lived hundreds of years ago. He became obsessed with this exact problem. He realized that everything he experienced, colors, sounds, physical sensations, even mathematical truths, could potentially be illusions created by his own mind. This drove him to the edge of madness. If everything could be a dream or hallucination, how could he know anything for certain? How could he even be sure that he existed? His solution was famous. I think, therefore I am. As long as he was capable of doubting, thinking, and questioning, he could be certain that some form of consciousness existed, even if everything else was an illusion. But modern neuroscience is revealing that even Descartes' solution might not be enough. We now know that thinking, doubting, and questioning all happen during dreams too. You can be completely convinced of your own existence and rationality while in the middle of the most bizarre dream. So where does that leave us? How can we ever be certain that we're not dreaming right now? The honest answer is, we can't. And this uncertainty isn't a bug in human consciousness. It might be a feature. Let me explain what I mean by taking you deeper into the mystery of what actually happens to your brain when you sleep. For centuries, people assumed that sleep was just the absence of waking consciousness. We thought the brain simply turned off like a light switch, rested for a few hours, then turned back on in the morning. But when scientists developed the technology to actually look inside sleeping brains, they discovered something incredible. The sleeping brain isn't resting at all. In many ways, it's more active than the waking brain. During certain stages of sleep, your brain consumes more energy, processes more information, and creates more complex neural connections than it does during your most mentally challenging waking activities. But here's where it gets really weird. Different parts of your brain can be in completely different states of consciousness simultaneously. Right now, as you're listening to this, parts of your brain might be fully awake and alert, while other parts are in dream states, and still other parts are in deep sleep modes. Scientists call these hybrid consciousness states, and they're revolutionizing our understanding of what consciousness actually is. Imagine this. The part of your brain that recognizes faces might be wide awake, while the part that processes logical reasoning is dreaming about flying elephants, and the part that controls your sense of time is in deep sleep mode, where minutes feel like hours. You would be simultaneously experiencing multiple realities, multiple streams of consciousness, multiple ways of understanding and interacting with the world. And here's the disturbing part. This might be happening to you more often than you realize. The boundary between sleeping and waking isn't a clear line. It's a fuzzy, constantly shifting zone where different aspects of consciousness blend together. That daydream you had earlier today, parts of your brain were actually in dream states while other parts remained awake. That moment when you zoned out and lost track of time, you were experiencing a hybrid consciousness state. This discovery is forcing scientists to completely reconsider what consciousness is. Instead of thinking about consciousness as a single, unified thing that's either on or off, we now have to think about it as multiple interacting streams that can be in different states simultaneously. But this raises even deeper questions. If consciousness isn't unified, if it's actually multiple streams running in parallel, then who are you really? Are you the stream that's currently dominant? Are you somehow all of the streams combined? Are you something else entirely that observes all these streams? And if different parts of your consciousness can be dreaming while other parts are awake, how do you know which parts are experiencing reality and which parts are experiencing dreams? This connects to something that ancient Buddhist philosophers understood thousands of years ago, long before we had any scientific equipment to study the brain. Buddhism teaches that there are actually 8 different types of consciousness operating simultaneously within each person. There's visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, consciousness of taste, touch and smell, mental consciousness that processes thoughts and concepts, and 2 deeper levels called the afflicted consciousness and the store consciousness. According to Buddhist teaching, the store consciousness continues operating even during deep sleep, maintaining your sense of personal identity and storing all your experiences and memories. It's like a vast library that never closes, continuously cataloging and organizing everything that happens to you. The afflicted consciousness is what creates your sense of being a separate self, distinct from everything else in the world. This consciousness is active during dreams, which is why you can have a sense of personal identity even in the strangest dream scenarios. But here's what's fascinating. These ancient insights are being confirmed by modern neuroscience. We now know that different types of consciousness really do operate simultaneously, and some aspects of consciousness really do continue functioning during sleep. This creates a fascinating clash between 2 completely different ways of understanding reality. Western materialistic science says that consciousness is produced by brain activity. When neurons fire in certain patterns, consciousness appears. When they stop firing, consciousness disappears. In this view, consciousness is like software running on the hardware of the brain. But Eastern philosophical traditions suggest that consciousness is more fundamental than brain activity. In these views, consciousness is like the screen on which all experiences appear, including the experience of having a brain. If the Western view is correct, then dreams are just random neural activity that your brain tries to make sense of. They're essentially meaningless byproducts of brain maintenance processes. But if the Eastern view is correct, then dreams might be consciousness exploring different aspects of reality, freed from the constraints of physical perception. Recent scientific discoveries are making the Eastern view seem more plausible than ever before. For example, we now know that dreams aren't random at all. They follow sophisticated patterns and serve important functions in memory consolidation, problem solving, and emotional processing. We also know that dream consciousness can be incredibly creative and insightful. Some of the greatest discoveries in human history have occurred in dreams, from the structure of DNA to the invention of the sewing machine to countless mathematical theorems and musical compositions. This suggests that dream consciousness might not be a diminished form of regular consciousness, but rather an enhanced form that has access to information and creative abilities that aren't available during normal waking states. But let's explore this idea even further, because what I'm about to tell you will challenge everything you think you know about the nature of reality itself. Some cutting-edge philosophers and scientists are proposing that consciousness isn't produced by brains at all. Instead, they suggest that consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality, like gravity, electromagnetism, or the strong nuclear force. This theory is called panpsychism, and it suggests that consciousness exists at every level of reality, from subatomic particles to galaxies. In this view, human brains don't create consciousness. They organize and focus it, like a lens focusing light. If panpsychism is correct, then your brain is more like a sophisticated radio receiver that tunes into consciousness rather than a computer that generates it. And dreams, they might be what happens when your brain tunes in to different frequencies or aspects of consciousness, frequencies that aren't normally accessible during waking states when your attention is focused on physical survival and social interaction. This could explain why dreams often feel more real, more meaningful, and more emotionally intense than waking experiences. You might literally be accessing deeper, more fundamental levels of consciousness. But even if you find panpsychism hard to believe, consider this. We still have absolutely no idea how consciousness could possibly emerge from purely physical processes. Think about it. How do electrochemical signals in your brain become the experience of seeing the color red, or feeling love, or understanding a mathematical concept? How does matter become mind? How do objective physical processes create subjective experiences? This is called the hard problem of consciousness, and despite all our scientific advances, we're no closer to solving it today than we were 100 years ago. The fact that you're having an experience right now, that there's something it's like to be you, rather than nothing at all, is literally the greatest mystery in the known universe. And every night, when you dream, you're exploring this mystery firsthand. But let's go even deeper into the rabbit hole of dream consciousness, because lucid dreaming reveals something that might fundamentally change how we understand reality. Lucid dreaming is when you become aware that you're dreaming while still remaining in the dream state. When this happens, something extraordinary occurs. You gain conscious control over your experienced reality. In a lucid dream, you can fly through space, breathe underwater, transform objects with your thoughts, or visit any location you can imagine. You can have conversations with dream characters who respond intelligently and creatively to everything you say. You become, quite literally, the god of your own personal universe, where the normal laws of physics don't apply, and anything you can conceive becomes possible. Now here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this. When scientists study the brains of people who are lucid dreaming, they see something that shouldn't be possible according to our normal understanding of consciousness. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for critical thinking, self-awareness, and logical reasoning, becomes highly active, just like it is when you're fully awake and alert. But at the same time, the person remains in a dream state, with all the visual, auditory, and sensory richness that dreams provide. It's like being simultaneously asleep and awake, dreaming and conscious, experiencing impossible realities while maintaining rational awareness. This represents a completely unique state of consciousness that doesn't fit into our normal categories of asleep or awake. But here's what's even more incredible. Advanced lucid dreamers report that the experiences they have in lucid dreams can be more vivid, more emotionally meaningful, and more memorable than anything they experience in waking life. They describe flying dreams so realistic that they can feel the wind against their skin and the sensation of air resistance. They report conversations with dream characters that provide profound insights and wisdom. They describe visiting landscapes of indescribable beauty that feel more real than physical reality. What are we to make of this? If consciousness can create experiences that feel more real than reality itself, what does this say about the nature of reality? This connects to profound questions that have been explored by mystics and philosophers for thousands of years. In Hindu philosophy, there's a concept called Brahman, described as pure consciousness that manifests all of existence. According to this view, everything you experience, including your physical body, the world around you, and all of reality itself, is actually consciousness appearing in different forms. During lucid dreaming, you might be getting a glimpse of what it would be like to experience consciousness in its pure, creative state before it becomes limited by physical constraints. Ancient Hindu texts describe enlightened beings who can control reality through pure consciousness, who can manifest objects, travel instantly between locations, and reshape the physical world through mental intention alone. What if lucid dreaming is a preview of these abilities? What if consciousness, in its natural state, really does have the power to directly create and control reality? But skeptics argue that this is all just neurochemistry. They point out that lucid dreams, no matter how vivid, are still just brain states. The flying, the reality control, the profound conversations. All of it is just neurons firing in patterns that create convincing illusions. They're probably right that lucid dreams are brain states. But here's the question that skeptics can't answer. How do brain states become conscious experiences in the first place? And if brain states can create experiences that feel more real than reality, what does this say about our normal waking experiences? Are they also just brain states creating convincing illusions? This brings us to one of the most disturbing possibilities of all. What if this entire waking reality is actually a dream? I know this sounds crazy, but bear with me for a moment. In dreams, you can be completely convinced that you're awake. You can have logical thoughts, make rational decisions, and experience consistent physical laws until something impossible happens, or you wake up and realize it was all a dream. What if this waking experience is the same thing? What if you're actually asleep right now, having an incredibly long, detailed, and consistent dream about being awake and learning about dreams? How would you know? In the dream, everything would feel completely real. You would have consistent memories, logical thoughts, and convincing sensory experiences. Other dream characters would seem like real people with their own independent consciousness. Some spiritual traditions actually teach this exact idea. They suggest that what we call physical reality is actually a cosmic dream or illusion. Maya in Hindu tradition, samsara in Buddhism. According to these teachings, consciousness in its natural state is unlimited, creative, and blissful, but it becomes trapped in the illusion of being separate individual beings in a physical world. The goal of spiritual practice, according to these traditions, is to wake up from this cosmic dream and realize your true nature as unlimited consciousness. And here's what's interesting. People who have profound spiritual experiences often describe them in terms very similar to lucid dreaming. They report gaining conscious control over their reality, experiencing themselves as unlimited awareness, and realizing that their normal sense of being a separate individual is just an illusion. But let's shift our focus to something that might be more immediately practical and relevant to your daily life. The incredible things that your dreaming mind does every single night. Dreams aren't just entertainment or random neural static. They're sophisticated information processing systems that are constantly working to solve problems, process emotions, and integrate new experiences into your understanding of the world. Every night, your dreaming mind takes all the information you encountered during the day and works to fit it into your existing knowledge structure. But it doesn't do this randomly. It follows specific patterns that are designed to help you understand, remember, and use information more effectively. Research has shown that dreams preferentially incorporate new information when it's strongly connected to existing knowledge that's emotionally significant to you. Your brain actively seeks out meaningful connections and uses dream imagery to help you understand and remember important concepts. But dreams do much more than just organize information. They're also incredibly creative problem-solving systems. Think about this. Many of the greatest breakthroughs in human history have occurred in dreams. Kekulé discovered the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake eating its own tail. Mendeleev worked out the periodic table of elements in a dream. Tesla visualized his inventions in lucid dreams. Musicians from Paul McCartney to Keith Richards have written famous songs that came to them in dreams. What's happening here? How can sleeping minds solve problems that waking minds can't figure out? One explanation is that during dreams, your mind is freed from the logical constraints and assumptions that limit waking thought. In dreams, you can make connections that would seem impossible or illogical during waking consciousness. Dream logic allows you to see relationships between ideas that your rational mind would normally dismiss. You can combine concepts in novel ways, visualize complex systems from impossible perspectives, and access intuitive insights that bypass analytical thinking. But here's where it gets really mysterious. Sometimes dream solutions involve information that the dreamer couldn't have known through normal means. There are documented cases of people dreaming about scientific discoveries before they were announced. Mathematical solutions to problems they'd never studied, or creative works that incorporate techniques they'd never learned. This raises the possibility that dreams might sometimes access information beyond individual knowledge and experience. Carl Jung proposed that dreams connect us to what he called the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human psychological experiences and archetypes that exists beyond individual minds. According to Jung, certain dream symbols and themes appear across all cultures and throughout history because they tap into this deeper level of shared human consciousness. Modern research is finding some support for this idea. Studies show that people from completely different cultures often have similar dream themes, symbols, and emotional experiences. There also seems to be some truth to the idea of precognitive dreams, dreams that seem to predict future events. While most apparent cases of precognitive dreaming can be explained by coincidence or selective memory, some cases are harder to dismiss. What if Jung was right? What if individual consciousness is connected to some larger field of consciousness that contains information beyond personal experience? This would mean that your dreams aren't just processing your individual memories and experiences. They're potentially accessing a vast network of shared human knowledge and insight. But even if you're skeptical about collective consciousness, there's no denying that dreams can access information and creative abilities that aren't available to your normal waking consciousness. This suggests that consciousness itself might have untapped potentials that only become accessible when the rational, analytical mind relaxes its control. Unfortunately, not all dreams are pleasant explorations of creativity and insight. For millions of people around the world, sleep is regularly invaded by nightmares, terrifying experiences that can affect waking life for hours or days. Nightmares are fascinating from a scientific perspective because they reveal something important about the nature of consciousness and the function of dreams. Recent research has shown that nightmares aren't just random, scary experiences. They serve specific psychological and evolutionary functions. From an evolutionary perspective, nightmares might have helped our ancestors prepare for real dangers by rehearsing threatening scenarios in a safe dream environment. Early humans could practice survival responses and develop coping strategies for actual emergencies. Even today, research shows that people who experience moderate levels of nightmare activity often demonstrate better stress management and problem-solving abilities in challenging real-world situations. But nightmares also reveal something deeper about the nature of consciousness itself. Think about what happens in a nightmare. Your mind creates a convincing reality filled with threat, danger, and fear. The fear you experience is completely real, even though the threat is entirely imaginary. Your body responds with real stress hormones, increased heart rate, and physical tension. This shows that consciousness has the power to create experiences that feel completely real and have genuine physical effects, even when those experiences have no basis in external reality. But here's what's truly disturbing. If your mind can create convincing experiences of fear and threat during nightmares, what other aspects of your experience might be creations of consciousness rather than perceptions of objective reality? Your experience of being a separate self, distinct from everything else in the world, might be as much of a construction as the monsters in your nightmares. Your sense of time, space, causation, and physical law might be organizational principles that consciousness uses to create coherent experiences, rather than fundamental features of reality itself. This connects to ideas from existential philosophy, particularly the work of thinkers like Søren Kierkegaard and Jean-Paul Sartre. These philosophers argued that anxiety and fear are fundamental to human consciousness. They suggested that consciousness is defined by an awareness of its own freedom, mortality, and the ultimate meaninglessness of existence. In this view, nightmares might be expressions of the deepest anxiety of conscious existence, the recognition that you exist as a conscious being in a universe that provides no ultimate meaning or security. Your nightmares might be your consciousness confronting the fundamental uncertainties and fears that come with being aware, mortal beings. But other philosophical and spiritual traditions offer more hopeful interpretations. Buddhist philosophy suggests that suffering in dreams, like suffering in waking life, arises from the illusion that you are a separate self that needs to be protected and defended. According to Buddhist teaching, when you realize that your sense of being a separate individual is itself a kind of dream, the basis for fear and suffering disappears. Advanced Buddhist practitioners report being able to remain aware and calm even during nightmare experiences, transforming frightening dream content through the power of conscious awareness. Modern research supports the idea that consciousness can be trained to respond differently to dream content. Studies show that people who practice mindfulness meditation have significantly fewer nightmares and report more positive dream experiences overall. Lucid dreaming techniques also allow people to transform nightmare content. When you realize you're dreaming during a nightmare, You can consciously change the dream story, transform scary characters into helpful guides, or simply wake yourself up. This suggests that consciousness, even during sleep, isn't completely at the mercy of unconscious forces. You have more agency and control over your dream experiences than most people realize. But developing this agency requires understanding something crucial about the nature of consciousness itself. Consciousness isn't just passive awareness that receives experiences. It's an active, creative force that participates in shaping the realities it experiences. This becomes obvious during lucid dreams, but it's also true during waking consciousness. Your expectations, beliefs, attention, and intentions all influence what you experience and how you experience it. The more conscious you become of consciousness itself, the more you understand how awareness operates and how it can be directed, the more control you gain over the quality of your experiences, both in dreams and in waking life. Now let's explore one of the most mind-bending theories about consciousness and dreams: the possibility that consciousness operates according to quantum mechanical principles. Quantum mechanics is the branch of physics that studies the behavior of matter and energy at the smallest scales, the level of atoms and subatomic particles. At this level, reality operates according to rules that seem completely impossible from our everyday perspective. Particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until they're observed. Two particles can be instantaneously connected across vast distances, so that measuring one immediately affects the other. The act of observation itself changes what's being observed. These quantum phenomena violate our normal understanding of reality so completely that even physicists find them hard to accept emotionally, even though the mathematical evidence is overwhelming. Now, some scientists think that consciousness itself might operate according to quantum principles. Physicists like Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff have proposed that consciousness emerges from quantum processes occurring in microscopic structures within brain cells called microtubules. If this theory is correct, it would mean that consciousness, including dream consciousness, operates according to the same strange rules that govern quantum particles. Think about the similarities between quantum phenomena and dream experiences. In quantum mechanics, particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observation collapses them into a single state. In dreams, you can often be multiple people simultaneously or be in multiple locations at once until some event in the dream forces a single identity or location. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation changes what's being observed. In dreams, the act of becoming lucid, essentially observing that you're dreaming, often changes the entire nature of the dream experience. In quantum mechanics, particles can be instantaneously connected across space. In dreams, you can instantly travel between locations, communicate telepathically, or have immediate access to information from any source. These parallels might be more than coincidental. If consciousness operates quantum mechanically, then dreams, with their fluid logic and impossible events, might actually be closer to the fundamental nature of reality than our orderly waking experience. But the quantum theory of consciousness is controversial. and many scientists argue that quantum effects can't survive in the warm, noisy environment of the brain. However, recent research is finding quantum effects in biological systems that were previously thought impossible. Photosynthesis in plants, navigation in birds, and even smell perception in humans all seem to involve quantum processes. It's becoming increasingly clear that biology makes extensive use of quantum phenomena, so it's not unreasonable to think that consciousness might as well. But even if consciousness isn't literally quantum mechanical, the comparison reveals something important about the nature of awareness. Consciousness seems to have properties that don't fit well with our normal understanding of physical reality. It's subjective rather than objective. It can't be directly measured or observed from the outside, and it seems to have genuine causal power in the world. Your conscious decisions and intentions really do affect what happens in physical reality. When you decide to move your arm moves. When you focus your attention on something, your brain activity changes. When you set an intention before sleep, it influences your dream content. This suggests that consciousness isn't just a passive observer of physical reality, it's an active participant that can influence and shape what happens. And if that's true, then the experiences you have in dreams might be examples of consciousness operating with fewer constraints than it normally has in waking life. This brings us to perhaps the most exciting and potentially revolutionary aspect of sleep and dream research: the development of technologies that could allow us to directly interface with and control dream experiences. Scientists around the world are working on brain-computer interfaces that can monitor and influence dream content in real time. These technologies could eventually allow you to record your dreams and play them back later, program specific learning experiences into your sleep, share dream experiences with other people, or gain conscious control over your dreams whenever you want. Imagine being able to meet friends in shared dream spaces where you could explore impossible worlds together. Imagine being able to practice skills, rehearse important events, or work through emotional challenges in controlled dream environments. Imagine being able to access the creative and problem-solving abilities of dream consciousness whenever you need them, rather than waiting for them to appear spontaneously. These possibilities aren't science fiction. They're active areas of research that are making rapid progress. But they also raise profound ethical and philosophical questions. If dreams can be recorded and shared, are they still dreams? If dream content can be programmed and controlled, what happens to the spontaneous, mysterious nature of dream experience? If we can technologically enhance dream consciousness, will we lose touch with the natural processes that dreams normally serve? And most importantly, if we gain the ability to directly control consciousness itself, what does this mean for human identity and free will? These questions become even more complex when we consider the possibility that dreaming and waking consciousness might not be as different as we think. As our understanding of hybrid consciousness states advances, we're realizing that the boundary between dreaming and waking is much more fluid than previously believed. You might spend significant portions of your waking day in dreamlike states without realizing it. Conversely, aspects of waking awareness might persist through all stages of sleep. If the technologies currently under development allow us to access and control these different states of consciousness, we might be able to optimize human consciousness in ways that are currently unimaginable. But we might also fundamentally change what it means to be human. These developments force us to confront basic questions about personal identity and the nature of self. Are you the sum of your conscious experiences? Are you the continuous stream of awareness that observes those experiences? Are you something else entirely that exists beyond both experiences and awareness? As we develop the ability to modify, record, and share conscious experiences, these questions will become more than philosophical curiosities. They'll become practical concerns that affect how we live and how we understand ourselves. But regardless of what technological advances emerge, the fundamental mystery of consciousness will remain. The fact that there's something it's like to be you, that you have subjective experiences rather than being a purely mechanical system, is the deepest mystery in existence. And every night, when you dream, you're exploring this mystery in the most direct way possible. Your dreams are laboratories where consciousness experiments with reality, training grounds where awareness practices dealing with different scenarios, and art galleries where creativity expresses itself without limitation. But more than that, dreams are windows into the deepest nature of consciousness itself. When you're dreaming, you experience consciousness freed from its normal constraints. You see what awareness can do when it's not focused on physical survival, social conventions, or logical consistency. You experience the creative, magical, unlimited nature of consciousness that might be its true condition. And this raises one final profound possibility that I want you to consider. What if the ultimate purpose of sleep and dreams isn't rest or memory consolidation or problem solving, but preparation? What if dreams are training sessions where consciousness learns to operate without physical constraints? What if every dream is practice for a different kind of existence? One where consciousness isn't limited by biological processes, physical laws, or the illusion of being separate individuals. Many spiritual traditions teach that physical life is temporary and that consciousness continues in some form after the body dies. If this is true, then dreams might be your consciousness gradually learning the skills it will need when it's no longer bound by physical limitations. The ability to create realities through intention, to communicate directly through thought, to exist in multiple states simultaneously, to transcend normal concepts of space and time. All of these dream abilities might be natural properties of consciousness that are normally hidden by physical constraints. Dreams might be glimpses of what consciousness is like in its natural, unlimited state. But even if you're skeptical about survival after death, dreams still serve as profound reminders of the mystery and potential of consciousness. Every night, Your awareness demonstrates abilities that seem impossible from a purely materialistic perspective. You create worlds, characters, and experiences that feel completely real. You solve problems, process emotions, and generate insights that your waking mind couldn't achieve. You participate directly in the greatest mystery in the known universe, the emergence of subjective experience from objective reality. And this participation isn't passive. Every time you pay attention to your dreams, keep a dream journal, or practice lucid dreaming, you're actively exploring consciousness itself. You're developing a more intimate relationship with the awareness that makes you who you are. You're learning to recognize consciousness as an active, creative force rather than a passive observer. And you're preparing yourself for whatever adventures consciousness might have in store, whether in dreams, in waking life, or in possibilities we haven't even imagined yet. So tonight, when you close your eyes and prepare for sleep, remember that you're not just resting your body or processing the day's events. You're embarking on a journey into the deepest mysteries of existence. You're exploring realms where consciousness operates according to different rules, where awareness can directly shape reality, and where the impossible becomes possible. You're participating in an ancient mystery that connects you to every conscious being that has ever existed, the strange, wonderful, and ultimately inexplicable fact of being aware. Your dreams aren't separate from your waking life. They're part of the continuous adventure of consciousness discovering itself. So dream boldly, dream lucidly, and wake up tomorrow with a renewed sense of wonder about the incredible mystery of your own awareness. Because in the end, the most amazing thing about dreams isn't that they reveal the nature of reality, it's that they reveal the nature of you. Sweet dreams and happy exploring.